to send him to a faraway prison, to send an in terror message to all students, all citizens, that speaking out in favor of Palestine can wind up with your detention and deportation. So today, Mahmoud filed a lawsuit seeking accountability against these individuals who persecuted him. He filed a civil rights lawsuit under the KKK Act of 1871, which Congress passed to punish Klansmen from intimidating and terrorizing Black citizens in order to subjugate their aspirations for political freedom, for Black political freedom. So to today, these actors are collaborating, intimidating, and trying to send a message of repression in order to squelch the burgeoning Palestine freedom movement. So let me tell you a little bit about how this plan worked, and then I'll conclude. The plan largely started with the Heritage Foundation and Stephen Miller. We know the Heritage Foundation is the architect of an overarching authoritarian plan, Project 2025, that targets immigrants, civil rights, trans people, environmental protections, among many other things. Well, they had another project they called Project Esther, which was the blueprint for the conspiracy that they developed in the fall of 2024 in anticipation of the election. And what the blueprint called for was a public-private partnership to single out non-citizen students who would be vulnerable to the immigration laws. On the private side, they worked with Betar and Canary, who are anti-Palestinian proto-fascist groups who had long been involved in doxing and harassing students privately. But what was particular about this plan now was the public part, because Heritage wanted what they called a willing administration, that is, federal government actors to do more than private harassment, but to wield the total power of the state to punish and detain people. So under this blueprint, it was Betar and Canary who identified students, student activists, particularly Columbia University, and foremost Mahmoud Khalil, and they would nominate them to be targeted by the State Department in a kind of one-to-one process. It's not like the State Department was using any reasoned judgment or deliberation. They were taking these nominations and within a day or two sending DHS and ICE officials to arrest Mahmoud and others and send them to faraway prisons. So today we're here demanding accountability. Mahmoud is here demanding accountability because Mahmoud is only the canary in the authoritarian coal mine. The federal government, as he keeps on saying, as we keep repeating, will not stop with him. So we thank Mahmoud for his steely resolve and courage to stand up to this form of repression, not just for himself, but for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bahar, for all of your words and for your powerful advocacy for Mahmoud and for all people whose constitutional, civil, and human rights are under attack. Fighting back against the Trump administration's repression of Palestinian rights is only possible when we have solidarity with one another, which is why I'm so glad to introduce our next speaker, an artist, an activist, and a longtime supporter of justice and freedom for Palestinians. Please join me in welcoming Morgan Spector.
Hi. I'm here as a friend and supporter of Mahmoud's. I'm also here as someone who believes that our humanity is measured by whose suffering we are willing to see and whose suffering we're willing to ignore. Over the last 3 years, we've all watched countless Palestinian families devastated by unimaginable suffering, entire bloodlines wiped off the face of the earth forever. For many of us here, and for millions of others around the world, silence was not an option. Advocating for Palestinian rights isn't an act of anything but humanity. It's an expression of conscience, of the moral conviction that Palestinians deserve the same rights, dignity, and freedom that we would want for anyone, anywhere in the world. Mahmoud has unstintingly embodied that moral conviction. But his courage has made him and far too many others a target, targeted by the government and targeted by extreme anti-Palestinian groups. Today, we're fighting back together. I don't want to live in a country where people have to calculate whether defending human rights will cost them their freedom or their future. I don't want students, immigrants, artists, journalists, or anyone to be silenced in the face of a truth that must be spoken. And I don't want this country to be a place where justice is something we cynically dismiss or only dream about. I want justice to be at the very core of the society we share. The rights Mahmoud is fighting for belong to all of us. If they can put Mahmoud in prison for exercising those rights, then those rights become a privilege conferred by the state on those who accept the division between lives that count and lives that don't. That's why I'm standing with Mahmoud today, and why it's so important that he wins. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morgan. It's a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is a faculty member at Columbia University and an outspoken supporter of the right to advocate on campus for a free Palestine. I'm really honored to bring up Professor Joe Hawley.
Thanks, Morgan. Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Hawley. I'm a professor at Columbia University, where we are proud to count Mahmoud Khalil among our alumni. And I'm also proud to be one of the thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who stand alongside activists like Mahmoud to support the Palestine Solidarity Movement, and who reject the so-called Jewish organizations who support genocide and harass dissidents in our name, who claim to represent our values and our interests, but traffic only in anti-Palestinian racism. When the US government, prompted by vigilantes and secretive anti-Palestine groups, came for Mahmoud last year, we professors pleaded with the university's leaders to fight back, to protect our students and our research. And they told us that Donald Trump was president, and he was very popular, and universities were unpopular, and the political moment for fighting back just wasn't right. But you know what happened next. Harvard fought back, and they became national heroes. Entire cities rose up against Trump's deportation agenda. Donald Trump is now historically unpopular as a president, and anyone who speaks out in resistance or opposition, and there's more every day, knows they do so with the American people on their side. What's more, the scourge of anti-Palestinian racism, of anti-Arab racism, of Islamophobia is now a political coin that has lost its value. The shameless weaponization of anti-Semitism charges is being rejected by my fellow Jews, and it is being rejected in the courts, and it is being rejected by voters around the country, and here in the great city of New York, where my neighborhood just elected another one of our brave student activists as the Democratic nominee to represent us and the university in Congress. As an historian, I am here to tell you that history will only judge our oppressors if we give them the evidence with which to do so. From my Palestinian friends like Mahmoud, I have come to understand just how many people do not have time to wait for the judgments of history. From the immigration justice movement, I have learned that the moral arc of history only bends if we seize it and bend it ourselves. We know the people behind this brazen conspiracy against Mahmoud and his rights and all of our rights expected to get away with it. They expected to never face accountability for their vile hatred or their criminal acts. And we are here today to tell them that they are wrong. This lawsuit is a message to hate groups like Betar and Canary Mission. You will no longer be able to hide behind claims to represent Jewish interests when you harass and endanger us and our neighbors daily. It is a message to the government officials who pledge allegiance not to the Constitution, but to Donald Trump and his corrupt advisors. You will be held accountable for your crimes. To the racists and Islamophobes and anti-Palestinian bigots, whether you're lurking behind anonymous social media accounts or standing behind a White House podium, we see you and we will defeat you. With our courage, we will outlive you. With our organizing, we will succeed you in political office. With our moral clarity and history on our side, we will defeat you at the ballot box, in the primary, and in the general. And with lawsuits like this one, we will see to it that the history of these days is written with unyielding honesty about your words and your deeds and your crimes. We will see to it that the reign of terror you sought to inflict on Palestinian activists with your ragtag militia of freelance stalkers and corrupt officials yields you nothing but misery and frustration and expense. We will drag your lawless, racist conspiracy out into the light of day, and we will see you in court. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Howley, for that powerful rejection of Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian racism, and white supremacy. We will not be used as a moral cover for the targeting and repression of Palestinians. Canary Mission and Betar have been harassing students at Columbia for years, but we know that these private groups that colluded with the Trump administration don't just target students, it's Palestinians in general, and anyone who speaks out for Palestinian freedom. So I am really honored to welcome our next speaker, an incredible organizer who's been organizing in New York City for years from the Palestinian youth movement, Tahir Daleh.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to begin by saying it's an honor to continue to stand alongside Mahmoud and his family and all of those who organized this groundbreaking case today as we proceed through this struggle. As we proceed to follow Mahmoud's leadership, and in fact, I actually want to start today by taking a page out of his book. As he's done so many times, I want to reground us in what it is that ultimately we're fighting against. The conditions in Gaza, the conditions in Palestine, across the broader region, in every single aspect of Palestinian life, even right here in America, are as dire as they've been since this horrific genocide began in October of 2023. For more than 250 days, a false ceasefire has existed, which has allowed for continued bombings, continued starvation, the continued prevention of families to reunite with each other, to rebuild their homes, to rebuild their lives. The horrors that began to unfold in Gaza have reached the West Bank, where just yesterday and every day we see ruthless settler attacks, accelerations against Palestinian families, many of whom are local residents here, like Saifullah Musallat, the first anniversary of his death just passed yesterday. Continuing to struggle against, to cast light on, and to organize to put a stop to these unspeakable horrors, that is what Mahmoud and so many other student organizers and organizers in general have committed themselves and all of their energies to for the last 3 years. And it is for that reason that the Trump administration colluded with groups like Betar, with groups like Canary Mission and beyond, to put a stop to righteousness and to put forward an abhorrent proposition that standing against the genocide of your people is somehow worse than perpetrating that genocide. Today we come together again to stand against this claim, to take another necessary step forward in a long struggle for Palestinian freedom that is tiring, that is dire in this moment, but that is inevitably bending towards freedom and liberty for all. I want to close by recognizing another piece of urgency that brings us together today. Mahmoud's case and the attacks on Mahmoud were the first in a long string of attacks on immigrant communities across the entire United States that have persisted, have worsened, have gotten more intense since that day. In many ways, this shows us what a lot of us know, that what happens to Palestinians, whether they're in America or whether they're in Palestine, is the tip of the spear or the beginning idea of what the Trump administration plans for us all. Those of us who stand on the side of conscience, those of us who stand on the side of truth and justice. I'm going to close now by remembering that just yesterday, or just this last week, 2 more people have been claimed by ICE. Lorenzo Araujo in Houston, Texas, and Juan Guerrero in Maine. We need to continue to fight for this case, to fight for Mahmoud, for all Palestinians, and for all immigrants until these horrors are put to a stop, legally and through our communities and organizing. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of the Palestinian Youth Movement and the Palestinian community in general, it's an honor to be here today with you.
Thank you so much, Tahir, for grounding us in the urgency of our collective demand to stop sending billions of dollars to carry out a genocide in Palestine, to speak out against the collective horrors that are unfolding throughout Palestine, and also the horrors that ICE is carrying out here in the US. It's my honor to welcome another amazing activist and long-term supporter of Palestinian freedom, the wonderful artist and champion of human rights, Cynthia Nixon.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am here today because I care about Mahmoud, and I care about his family, and I care about the principle that no one should be punished for speaking out against the suffering of other human beings, and that includes Palestinian people. For nearly 3 years, millions of people across the United States and across the world have raised their voices for Palestinian lives, for families living through unimaginable loss, for children who are just like all of our children and who deserve safety, dignity, and a future, for the basic belief that every single human life should be valued. Whatever our politics, this should never be a controversial idea. Mahmoud has been one of those voices. And today his legal team is asking the courts to review how and why he was targeted. We know it's not because he did anything wrong. It's because he is a Palestinian standing up for Palestinian rights. It is because of the humanity he stands up for. If people can be singled out because they advocate for Palestinian human rights, then the message isn't only meant for Mahmoud. It is meant for every student, every immigrant, every organizer, every person who wonders whether speaking their conscience will come with a dangerous cost and unjust consequences. This should concern every single one of us. The freedom to protest injustice is not something our government gives us when it's convenient or aligned with their ideology. It's a right we must defend. We need to shine a light on the people working together to attack those rights, and we need to hold them accountable. I stand with Mahmoud because I believe his humanity matters. I stand with Palestinians because their humanity matters. And I stand with everyone who believes that our shared humanity demands that we speak up when we see suffering, not stay silent because we're afraid. I hope this lawsuit helps reaffirm something fundamental, that compassion is not a crime. Solidarity is not extreme. And speaking out for human rights should never make someone a target. And I hope it puts those that are going after Mahmoud and others standing up for Palestine on notice. Come for one of us, face us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for your powerful support for Palestinian rights and for helping to make it clear that there is no way to be progressive except for Palestine. The days of being progressive except for Palestinian rights are now over and in the dustbin of history. It is up to all of us to stand up against the genocide of the Palestinian people, for immigrants here in the U.S., and for everybody who's standing up for Palestinian freedom. Excuse me. In a moment, we're going to hear from Mahmoud himself. But first, I'd like to introduce a spokesperson for Jewish Voice for Peace Action, one of the organizations that has been fighting side by side with Mahmoud, one of the largest Jewish anti-Zionist organizations in the world, who is standing up to say that Palestinian freedom is essential and is not on the table and cannot be sidelined. Ever since DHS unlawfully detained him as part of the larger anti-Palestinian conspiracy under the Trump administration. So please join me in welcoming my friend, the incredible Beth Miller, the political director of JVP Action.
Good afternoon, everyone. JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, is a grassroots, multiracial, intergenerational movement of Jews across this country and the world's largest progressive Jewish organization supporting Palestine. And we are here today and honored to be here today to stand with Mahmoud Khalil, to stand with the Center for Constitutional Rights and the rest of the movement for Palestinian freedom. As Jewish New Yorkers, as Mahmoud's neighbors, And as individuals, activists, and organizers who are continuing to fight this ongoing genocide, we know how absolutely critically important it is that Mahmoud is continuing to show leadership in this way, to take risks by fighting back against the Trump regime's fascism and attacks on Palestinians and on the Palestinian freedom movement. We're here today because the Trump administration and private groups like the Heritage Foundation, Betar USA, Canary Mission, are attacking Palestinians and supporters of Palestinian freedom. They're conspiring to deprive people who are doing everything they can to fight an ongoing genocide, to deprive them of their most basic rights and their most basic freedoms. And let's be clear, they're not hiding it. They are being very clear and open about what they are doing. In October of 2024, the Heritage Foundation published a blueprint called Project Esther that describes in detail how it and other private entities will work together with the government to use deportation and deprivation of civil liberties and civil rights to silence the Palestinian freedom movement, to attack Palestinian rights activists, and to start those attacks with student organizers. This is not hidden. They have written out very clearly their plans to conspire, to attack and detain people like Mahmoud and other organizers who are trying to stop a genocide, who are trying to stop their own government from funneling billions of dollars to fund that genocide. These groups and the Trump administration thought that if they would start by attacking people that they thought were the most politically vulnerable, like student organizers, like Palestinians, like those who support Palestinian freedom, that everyone else would just stand back, that everyone else would be too afraid to fight back for their rights and for the rights of all of us. But today, by filing this case, Mahmoud Khalil is showing just how wrong they were. Mahmoud is fighting back, and we are all fighting back alongside him, and we will continue to organize to support him and to support the broader Palestinian freedom movement to end this genocide. We will not stand by as the Trump administration and these private groups are conspiring to tear apart this movement and to tear apart the rights of people working to end a genocide and all of us. So now I am so proud to introduce a friend and a leader in this movement and someone who we all take so much inspiration from, Mahmoud Khalil.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for your solidarity, for standing up with me, with my family, and with the Palestinian cause. And this lawsuit is about accountability and justice. And no matter where I am, I will not stop. I will not stop fighting until everyone who willingly contributed to my missing the birth of my son and to taking 104 days of my life from me answers for what they've done. But this case is about far more than what was done to me. It's about a coordinated, ongoing campaign to punish, silence, and intimidate anyone who dares to speak out for Palestinian liberation. And it's about exposing the network of organizations, political actors, and institutions that work together to criminalize solidarity with Palestine and to make an example of those who refuse to stay silent. But let's name plainly what this campaign exists to protect. For decades, the State of Israel and the Zionist organizations in this country that operate on behalf of Israel have understood that their conduct cannot survive honest scrutiny. So rather than defend or change their conduct, they resorted to make scrutiny itself impossible. They brand criticism of a government as hatred of a people. They rebrand documented atrocities as debates. And they built an entire apparatus. Groups like Canary Mission, Betar, and their institutional allies whose purpose is to surveil, blacklist, and destroy anyone who tells the truth about Palestine. So what happened to me did not begin with my detention. It began with years of organized effort to surveil and dox and smear students and advocates at Columbia University and on campuses across the country. People who spoke up for Palestinian rights were met with harassment and coordinated attacks aimed at their education, their careers, and their futures. And the goal was never to win an argument. The goal was always to manufacture fear, to convince people that the cost of speaking out would be too high. When those campaigns were not enough, they brought in the power of the state. They coordinated with Stephen Miller, with Rubio, with everyone in this government to stop our movement. We watched a broken immigration system weaponized against political speech. We watched free expression and academic freedom treated as obstacles rather than principles worth defending. And their message was unmistakable. If your speech challenges those in power or exposes uncomfortable truths about Palestine, you can be singled out, punished, and made an example and made into a warning for everyone else. So the rights at stake in this case belong to no single movement and no single community. If constitutional protections can be cast aside under political pressure today, they can be cast aside tomorrow against anyone. In this country and around the world, more people now are asking hard questions, demanding accountability, and refusing to look away from the suffering of Palestinians. So today, I ask you not to see this as only my case. It belongs to every immigrant, to every student threatened for organizing, every academic pressured into silence, every journalist punished for their reporting, and every person told that advocating for Palestinian rights means forfeiting their own freedom or their own future. We cannot let fear become the price of consciousness. To those who built this machinery to silence us, hear me clearly. It did not work. You detained me, and I'm standing here. You tried to make me a warning, and instead, you made me a plaintiff. This lawsuit is only one step forward toward full accountability, but the struggle is far from over. We will keep organizing, we will keep speaking, we will keep defending our rights, and we will keep building a future. We keep building toward a future where advocating for Palestinian liberation and freedom is treated not as a crime, but as what it has always been, an expression for our shared humanity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mahmoud, for those powerful words. We stand in unequivocal and wholehearted solidarity with you and your family and all people standing up for Palestinian freedom. Next, I'm really honored to welcome Jen Nessel from the Center for Constitutional Rights, who's going to bring up and take questions for Mahmoud and Mahmoud's legal team.
Okay, hi everybody. Ready for questions?
Suit's already been filed. Where can we find it?
Okay, so the lawsuit has been filed with SDNY. It is on our website at ccrjustice.org. There's a press release that I will send out when this is all over that also has information. Yeah.
Can you perhaps, Mahmoud, give us an update on his personal deportation case status?
Yeah.
We're still fighting in federal courts and immigration courts to prevent his deportation.
Follow up on that.
follow-up?
Are you worried that this would maybe intensify the efforts of the federal government to take away the plaintiff from this case and remove them from the country?
I don't put anything past this administration, but it would be obviously outrageous and unlawful to do so because he has court orders preventing his deportation until the conclusion of all his appeals in various cases.
Oh, and I meant to say that our co-counsel from Bell, Dr. Bean and Hoffman is also here to answer questions, and they have been hard at work on this case together with us.
Can you just say more about the legal outcomes of this case and what sort of relief that you're seeking?
Hi everyone, I'm Mahmoud Khalil from the Center for Constitutional Rights and a member of Mahmoud Khalil's legal team. So in this suit, we are seeking damages for the unlawful conspiracy. So damages from all of the defendants for their participation in the conspiracy. Also seeking a declaration from this federal court that the actions of all of the defendants were unlawful, that they were driven by anti-Palestinian animus, and that they resulted in a deprivation of our clients' constitutional rights. And we're also seeking an order from the court that any reliance on this conspiracy should be stopped. So any further action to continue carrying out this conspiracy needs to end as well. So that I think that answers your question. You're asking about the relief.
Can you clarify what conspiracy to persecute actually is?
Sorry?
Can you clarify what conspiracy to persecute actually is that the lawsuit basis?
Yeah. So under Section 1985(3), a conspiracy, so Section 1985(3) prohibits conspiracies that are driven by some form of animus or animosity towards a protected class. The conspiracy needs to be directed at a protected class. It needs to be for the purpose of violating certain protected constitutional rights. So what we are alleging here is that the Heritage Foundation, the Betar defendants, and the Canary Mission defendants conspired, or they agreed with the federal defendants because they shared this unlawful purpose and this animus against Palestinians, that they conspired with them to surveil, target, arrest, detain, and try to quickly expel from the country our client. So the conspiracy really challenges this coordinated effort, which again is grounded in a shared purpose and an understanding that the goal of the conspiracy was to punish and silence Palestinians and their supporters.
Is there a smoking gun in this case in terms of evidence? Sorry, can you say that again? Is there a smoking gun in this case in terms of evidence to suggest Secretary of State Rubio and others conspired against Mahmoud and other students? What is the evidence that you present in the case to suggest a conspiracy exists?
So I think the evidence has, in a way, been there all along. The Heritage Foundation admitted as early as October of 2024 that it intended to recruit a public-private partnership once a willing administration entered into the administration. Those are its words. And that is far more than in many other kind of cases alleging a conspiracy you have. So that is plenty of evidence to begin with. And then not only that, once the administration was elected into office, the Betar defendants themselves said, we are working with the Heritage Foundation and we are working with ICE and we are working with these federal officials. So they've admitted to this coordinated effort. And then not only that, but after these events unfolded, after our client was arrested, after the others were arrested and targeted, the Heritage Foundation defendants said, this is not a coincidence. We called for these actions to happen privately and publicly, and it's not a coincidence that this is happening. And the Betar defendants similarly said, that the Betar and Canary Mission defendants similarly took credit for these arrests. So there's plenty of evidence that that they, like someone else said, they've been very public about this partnership, and once you get a chance to read the complaint and look at how the timing, lines up, it's very clear that the events that have unfolded have been coordinated. It's been a shared understanding.
I mean, just to add on this, other than the public information, we're also suing the government under the Freedom of Information Act, but also in other court proceedings, we're getting discovery right now. And this discovery show that there has been coordination, or the government relied on such coordination to target me and target other students. In fact, a day before my detention, the Department of Justice records revealed that they had nothing against me. Yet they continued to with their conspiracy. So this shows once again another level of this government disregard of law just to protect Israel. And in terms of damages and others asked, I mean, we will see what this case will reveal in terms of records between the government and these institutions to add more defendants, because now we have only an initial list of defendants based on the records that we have, based on basically the public reporting. But like if more records would show that more individuals were engaged in this, or damages would warrant other claims or other reliefs from court, we will seek that as well.
Yeah, just to say, and when you get to the complaint, it is an incredibly detailed laying out of the timeline and all the different actors. There is, in fact, a timeline in the brief, which is on our website at ccrjustice.org. Yes.
A lot of times what's been thrown around a lot is defend Palestinian rights, presumably based on what he said is against Israel and against Trump and his administration. What about against Hamas, terrorist organization that's currently in power, and many Palestinians have come out and said that stripped them of those rights?
This case is about the entire United States government coalescing and unlawfully using the repressive power of the state to target and put someone in prison. It's not about an ideological debate, because they were too afraid to engage in an ideological debate and actually defend the indefensible, which was U.S. support for mass slaughter, starvation, and genocide of the Palestine people. And if you don't think that it should be a priority for civil rights lawyers to challenge that kind of state repression, we just won't see eye to eye. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all very much.